Welcome to Discovering the Law. My name is Lucy Rivera, and we're here to watch an episode on business law. Episodes of this program and many of our other past programs can be viewed at www.discoveringthelaw.net. Today we're going to discover business law, and for that purpose we have a very special guest, Senior Company Counsel Christina Gonzalez. She's a Senior Company Counsel at Staples. Welcome to our program, Christina.
Hi, Lucy. Thanks for having me.
We're delighted to learn about what you do at Staples as a Senior Corporate Counsel. What has been your career path to get there?
Well, my career path has been a little different than most. My parents emigrated from the Dominican Republic and settled in Miami, and that's where I grew up. I didn't know any attorneys in my community, and the ideas that I had about being a lawyer came from TV and courtroom dramas, and I knew that I wasn't going to be a part of that. So it wasn't until I started working in Washington, D.C. I was a contracting officer with the U.S. Department of Navy, and I was exposed to business lawyers there when I negotiated contracts, and I saw what business lawyers did. And I saw them developing ideas, protecting ideas, growing businesses, and creating something for their companies. They were providing advice for corporations to do the right thing. And that's something that I really wanted to be a part of. So when, with the encouragement of my husband, who was an attorney, I applied to law school, and I went to Georgetown University Law School at night and continued to work during the day. After graduating Georgetown, I came up here to Boston and practiced in the corporate department of a Boston law firm for about 8 years. And then in 2006, I went in-house to a technology company. And then in 2008, I settled in with Staples.
Very interesting, and it's a business and a corporation that has inside counsel. Why would a corporation not contract with a law firm and rather go the in-house route?
So as businesses grow, their exposure to legal issues becomes much more common. You have to hire employees, so there's employment law aspects. You have to protect your ideas, so you have intellectual property rights concepts. You have to negotiate deals or lease facilities. So that's all things you would need a lawyer for. And so companies want a lawyer who really understands their business and can really give practical legal advice and be a strategic partner. And also, it's much more cost-effective hiring a lawyer rather than having to hiring a lawyer in-house rather than having to pay for outside counsel every time you have a transaction or have day-to-day activities that impact the law.
Do you need any specialized training to become a business attorney, a business lawyer, to go into business law and inside counsel?
Not really. You just need the desire, and you just need the interest in the business concepts. If you have the basic business law classes such as corporations, securities, and contracts, I think that's a good base. I think the best business teachers are my clients and what you learn on a day-to-day basis.
Well, mentors are important, And as a business attorney, we're curious to know, what are the different forms of organization of a business? How can you incorporate one, or how do you
Yeah,
form
there are many forms that you can actually have to set up a company, and each structure has an advantage and disadvantage. There's advantages and disadvantages to each. I think what you need to do is basically have a lawyer to help you through what particular entity structure is best for you. But for example, one structure is a sole proprietorship.
Yes.
And that is when you have one owner who is responsible for the business, who will manage the business. It's very easy to set up. You just go to a town hall of your town and fill out the paperwork for and declare yourself doing business as a sole proprietorship. The disadvantage to this is this structure is that because there is very few formalities, the owner is also responsible for the debts and obligations of the business. And if the owner should die, the business or the sole proprietorship ends. Then you have the structure of a partnership, where you have two or more owners getting together and agreeing in writing what assets should be in the business, how the business should be managed, how it should operate, and then how should the profits be distributed. One big advantage of this is that typically partnerships are not taxed at the partnership level, but any income that's generated from the partners or from the partnership goes to the partners for them to pay income taxes, or that's where the taxes are assessed. A disadvantage is that the general partners of the partnership are personally liable for the debts and obligations of the business. In addition, it's kind of sometimes hard for partners to withdraw from a partnership, and once that happens, the partnership dissolves and no longer continues. The third structure is the corporation, where you can have many shareholders or owners, and you have it has perpetual existence. So if the owner the original founder or the original investor dies, you can it'll still continue going. Another a big advantage is that it is the owners or shareholders are not personally liable for the debts and obligations of the corporation. So if you're an investor and you only want to invest $5,000 in a business, you do that, and if the business fails, that's all you've lost. Mm-hmm. The one disadvantage to the corporation is that it's taxed as a corporation, and any profits that it's distributed to the owners are also taxed. So another sometimes disadvantage is that you have to have record keeping, really good record keeping, and formal requirements to file on an annual basis to maintain your status as a corporation. You would file with the Secretary of State of Massachusetts. Then there's a structure called the limited liability company, mm-hmm. which takes the advantages of the tax treatment and it's taxed similar to a partnership, that the limited liability company isn't taxed, but the owners are taxed for the profits that are generated. But then it also offers the protection of a corporation. so that the members, in this case, are not personally liable for the debts and obligations of the limited liability company.
Thank you, Christina. That's interesting ways to know. So let's talk about how you incorporate a business in Massachusetts and what are the steps to incorporate a business.
Sure. So you would first check the name that you would want to use. You'd check it with the Secretary of State. And then if nobody else is using that name, you're free to use it. And you would file what you would call a certificate of incorporation with the Secretary of State. And that has the name of your business and a couple of basic paragraphs of information of the structure of the business and the date that you started it, basically. You pay a fee with that, and once you've incorporated, you can get a federal tax ID number, and you can get whatever business licenses or other things that you may need to run the business. But it's important that once you've filed and formed your company, that you maintain the corporate formalities that are required either in the partnership agreement, if you're doing a partnership, or an operating agreement in the limited liability company, or you're continually doing the filings on a yearly basis. Because what would happen if you don't keep up the maintenance and the record and the proper record keeping and running your business the way you said you would run it, then a court could come back and say, no, you didn't really keep up with everything. This entity is a sham, and you should be personally liable for what the business failed to do.
So this is why it's so important to seek legal advice. Are you familiar with those softwares where people can self-incorporate a business? What do you think of those?
Yeah, I personally don't like them because I think they're out to those companies are out to sell software,
right.
And
Yep.
what is good for one person or the product that might be out there may not be good for another person. There are many factors
Yes.
that contribute in what type of entity structure you want to
Right.
what you want to form. And there's a lot of considerations that I think, I'm not familiar familiar with them, but I would think, talking to.
So that begs the question: Why is it important to seek legal advice when you're going to incorporate?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things you want to consider. First of all, your risk for personal appetite, your personal risk, or your personal appetite for risk. Do you really, you want to put your heart and soul? Do you want to put your house? Do you want to put your car? Everything you've invested in this company to make it work? Or do you want to protect yourself for the future in case the business doesn't work? And you still have your house and you still have your car. How do you want to operate it? Do you want to be totally in control? Do you want to have somebody else manage it and be in control? How many investors do you want to have? Is it just going to be you? Do you have unlimited resources to make this business grow, or are you going to need to get some professional investors or venture capitalists or angel investors to come and help you build, fund your business? And then taxes. Taxes is a very important thing to consider. How is that going to impact what structure you have? And so all of those decisions, or all of those things are factors for you to consider when you're trying to determine what entity to do. So I think, talking to somebody about all those things is important, because not only are you forming this company for now, but you should be thinking in the next 5 and 10 years, how do I want this company to look?
That's true. And for our viewers today, we are discovering business law today. And for that purpose, we have Christina Gonzalez, who is a senior corporate counsel at Staples with us today, Inhouse Counsel. And my name, again, is Lucy Rivera, and I am the host of this program. That this episode can be viewed again at www.discoveringthelaw.com. And Christina, now that that business is incorporated and they're a business, what advice do they seek? What else do they want to know?
Well, I think companies would want to know about employment law if you're hiring folks to do things for you. If you have a fantastic idea, you'd probably want to figure out how to protect it. So you'd need some intellectual property counsel or advice on how to trademark your brand or patent your idea. If you're in the services, if you're in financial services, there are a bunch of regulatory issues having to deal with that. If you are in food services, there are a bunch of other local issues to do, both local and federal issues to deal with as well. So depending on the business, you might have to seek specialized advice.
And I wanted to just ask you for your opinion as to, I didn't ask you earlier, but what is the difference and how does it compare working in-house counsel versus at a law firm?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. Personally for me, I really feel a part of the team and much more closer to the business. It's really exciting to see your advice being implemented. And for me, that's great. Also, personally, work-life balance is very important to me. I have two daughters, Carmen and Cecilia. I have a husband and I have an extended family at home, and they're my priority. I want to spend time with them. And it's not to say that we don't work hard when you're in-house. You work very hard, but the schedule is much more, I think you're much more control over your schedule. And I think the expectations for deadlines and delivery are different in a corporate setting rather than if you're working at a large law firm.
No. And going back to what we were talking about, formation of businesses,
yes.
And what are the resources available for businesses that are incorporating out there? How do they learn about the resources?
Yeah, that's a good question. The state has a lot of information just online. If you go to mass.gov, if you go to a website run by the Massachusetts Business Resource Team, they have a lot of good general information there, and there's also great information at the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center Network. And then if you're looking for a specific lawyer, the Boston Bar Associations or Massachusetts Bar Association have lawyer referral services and can refer a lawyer. If you're looking for a lawyer that has specific language skills, for example, Spanish or Korean, there's a bunch of affinity bars that can provide you with more specialized skills if you're looking for an attorney like that. Also, there's the Economic Justice Project, and that's run by the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights. And what they do is provide workshops that describe business legal concepts, and also provide pro bono opportunities for those that qualified.
And how are you familiar with this program?
I know a very good colleague of mine from Staples worked
Pro bono
worked at the Lawyers Committee
Lawyers Committee for Business.
for civil rights.
For civil rights, and the workshop is for business formations.
Correct.
Being in-house counsel and being an attorney there, you bring your own background and perspective. Why do you feel diversity is important in a corporation, in a legal department? Yeah,
so I think diversity is very important in Staples, like other businesses, big businesses, embrace and actively support diversity because it is an opportunity to be inclusive, embracing different cultures, different thoughts, different backgrounds, provides an opportunity and the goal to basically reflect the faces of your customers. And this helps you understand your customers better, and the legal department should be no different. It should be as important in a legal setting as in any other business setting.
All right, interesting. For those people who are forming a small business, they don't know what to do about it. For instance, they may have, if it's a service, they may have malpractice insurance, but they're probably struggling with whether to do an LLC or LLP. What would be the difference, and what would you advise in that respect?
I guess I would say to them to, tell me more about your business. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to happen? Because each has its advantages and disadvantages. So the more I know about what your goals are for this business and how much you want this business to succeed and how much you're willing to and how devoted you are to it versus
an LLP versus an liability partnership, what would be the difference?
So a limited liability company, you have members instead of partners, and you have a little bit more flexibility on formatting it to work as a corporation rather than a limited partnership. A limited partnership would, they're quite similar on the tax treatment side, but I think the maintenance and the structure and the operating of it is a little bit different, and the limited liability company looks more like a corporation than a partnership.
Right, and in terms of incorporating it, as you mentioned, first you need to secure the name.
Correct.
Then you need to file the articles, or can you describe a little bit more in detail as to what goes in that information and that?
So you'd have the name of the company, when you'd have some basic stock information about how many shares can be issued. You have the name of the person who has incorporated. You have the date. Some certain basic information like that. And then it also has some clauses on indemnification for the company's owners, the officers and directors, and that's always obviously good to have.
And that's in the articles of incorporation,
right,
which then get filed.
Correct.
At the Secretary of State.
Correct.
Very interesting. And what about in terms for a corporation? Even you could be a small corporation or a big corporation. In terms of forming those businesses, what are the steps that you would take to do?
So you'd first figure out what entity you want. So if we've decided on the corporate structure, then you'd basically fill out the certificate of incorporation with all of the details that we just mentioned, and we take it to the Secretary of State and file it.
Very interesting, Christina. Thank you so much for talking to us about business law. We've come to the conclusion of our program, and we were honored to have Christina Gonzalez here. She's the Senior Corporate Counsel at Staples. And this program can be viewed for you, a review of this information, and also our previous programs at www.discoveringthelaw.net. My name is Lucy Rivera, and I am the host of this program. Thank you for watching the program today.